Melissa, at 8:37 this morning, the Houston Housing Authority has banned smoking at all 25 public housing properties. That means people who live at one of those properties can no longer smoke inside their apartments or in common areas, their offices or near entrances. The ban also applies to their visitors. Now, some folks say it's their right to smoke wherever they want to, but the Houston Housing Authority says children and other residents are being exposed to too much secondhand smoke. So joining us this morning for a conversation, Fox 26 legal analyst Chris Tritico and Houston Housing Authority President and CEO Tory Gunsolley. Gentlemen, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Tory, let me start with you. What is ultimately driving this decision?
Ultimately, it's the health of our residents, particularly the children and the elderly. Have huge consequences from secondhand smoke, and smoke knows no boundaries. And so when you have apartments in tight quarters, you just can't control the smoke from your apartment going into your neighbor's apartment. And we were getting complaints about the smoke in a non-smoker's unit from their next door neighbor.
Chris, what do you think of that?
Well, smoking, let's start with smoking is not good for us. And so it is probably a good concern for the Housing Authority to have. The question is it a civil right to smoke in your own home? And that question will have to be answered by a court at some point if someone will pick this up. Problem with litigation is these are low-income people living in government housing. They don't have the money to hire the lawyers. I doubt a tobacco company is going to fund this. So it actually may just occur without anyone challenging it.
And listening to some of our chatters or reading some of our chatters on our website this morning, some of them are saying, hey folks, it's public housing. You're having a subsidized opportunity to be there. They have the right to kind of stipulate some rules. Is that what you look at as giving you the authority to go do
well,
this?
I think first to the point of is smoking a right, the courts have never found that smoking is a right, and it has been litigated numerous times. So we don't think that we're taking any legal risk by implementing this ban. But we do have many rules as a part of the lease and the agreement between the Housing Authority and the residents. And we have thousands of people in line who would like that opportunity. If someone is a diehard smoker and refuses to stop smoking inside their unit, they're welcome to move on, and we can lease that unit to someone else.
And as you phase this in, and you can kind of start enforcing ultimately in March, as I understand, what happens if you find violators?
So this enforcement is really going to be dependent on the community and on the residents. Just like when the city of Houston implemented their smoking ordinance, they didn't have inspectors at every single restaurant, every time the restaurant was open. So it's impossible to have 100% coverage. But we feel that when the community expectation is set, we're hoping to change the hearts and minds of people about smoking in front of their children and smoking inside.
Chris, can they evict them?
Well, I think they can as long as it's a valid, as long as nobody challenges it, I think they can. The question and the legal distinction that needs to be answered here is, can government do this to you as opposed to a private leaseholder? Now, I own an apartment complex and it's a private entity. I think I can ban that easily. The question for the courts to answer is, can the government do this to people in their own home? That's a question that nobody's answered yet.
Well, this will certainly be an opportunity for us to find out, won't it?
We hope it won't go to the courts.
And real quickly, are there other precedents in other metropolitan areas where you're modeling this idea after?
Absolutely. There have been 250 to 300 housing authorities that have already implemented a
Not without
ban.
precedent, then?
Correct.
All right. Gentlemen, thank you very much. I do appreciate it.
Great. Glad to be here.